It's my pleasure today to introduce our new mayor, Mayor Kurt Wilson. Mayor Wilson.
This is an amazing community. It has all the levels of what I think most people really want. It's family-based, it's family-oriented, it's eclectic, it's geared around families, but that's whether you're a family of 2 people or you're a family of 6 people. It's whether you're a family in your mid-30s or whether you're a family like me getting older that has offerings that aren't vanilla. I mean, it's not just our parks and rec, it's the cultural arts pieces, it's the historic pieces, it's the amazing river, it's the amazing trails. And one of the things that we're responsible now as the new electeds as mayor and city council is really to enhance the incredible things that we have in the city. 1, to enhance our business community. 2, to enhance our natural geographic winning positions. Our trails, our walking paths, our bicycle paths, create true multimodalities for this city. I think you're going to see that happen in a very aggressive and fast manner. I think the state of the city is promising. I think the state of the city is we're ready to go. I think the state of the city is we're in a great place about to take off. We're about to lay this table so that this will truly become the greatest family community in the United States.
Okay, that's it. That's the show. I just got this great text I have to share with you, and there were a couple of misunderstandings this morning that are just ginormous mistakes on Steve Stroud's mistake. The first one was, I didn't know I was talking today. I thought it was John Paul Kroom that was going to be doing the presentation. So this is a huge, huge deal. The second thing, I'm sitting here just realizing we've got a few remarks to make, and I get a text. And there was another misunderstanding we had. I said, whatever you do, Steve, if the mayors from the other cities show up, please, please put them outside of the room. And I walk up here, and here they all are in living colors. My great friends and colleagues, Jim Gilvin, Peyton Jameson, and John Bradbury. And we're so glad you guys are here. Thank you for joining us. But I walk up here to the podium and I get an emergency text. And the emergency text says, Kurt, if you hear somebody in the back of the audience today yelling, "You suck," that may or may not be me, your friend, Mayor John Bradbury, Johns Creek. Thank you, John. I'm your biggest fan. So let's get rid of this guy here and let's go to this beautiful picture of this beautiful dog and this young boy and this beautiful picture of Steve Stroud. And one thing you learn in politics real quick, or show business, is never go after a little boy or a little dog and never go after Steve Stroud. So we did do one thing right. We're in front of Steve this morning. So I want to share with you these amazing people, this great team of Roswell, this great city council that you elected. But I would like my friends and colleagues, although they've already been introduced, I'd like the 5 councilmen of the great city of Roswell to stand up. The council members, Palermo, Hall, Hills, Vanstrom, and Morthland. Would you please stand up? I'd like to recognize them. These are amazing people. I can't tell you what a fantastic job these 5 folks are doing. And while we're recognizing the amazing city council, I would like to recognize the entire staff of the city of Roswell. Randy, would you have your entire team set up here? Stand up, please. This is an amazing group of people that we've barely had spent the last 90 days with. And amazing. Please give these amazing people. All right, stand up for a second. Don't sit down. So I'm just going to tell you who they are. This is the most maligned man in the city of Roswell, David Davidson, our city attorney. He's amazing. This is our great city administrator, Randy Knighton. This is our Department of Finance Director, Ryan Luckett. Sorry, I screwed that up, Ryan. Our Chief of Police, Jim Conroy. Lenore, way back there, superstar in ComDev. Julie Breckbell, our Communications Director. Jeff Letterman, our Director of Parks and Rec. Joe Panino, our Fire Chief. Sharon Izo, our Public Works Director. Dan Skowski, we have taken off the team. He no longer has a role. He, for some reason, is the interim Transportation Department Director, and we're just going to leave it that way for a while and make him suffer. The great Michael Fisher, our Assistant City Administrator, Jason Gaines, Head of Community Development, and Bob Petty, our Assistant City Attorney. And there's Marley Press in the back. Marley, our City Clerk. Please give a great round of applause to this great city staff. Now, the only problem is you notice Randy was the last to sit down. This man has such a gigantic ego, it's out of the roof. I mean, we go to meetings, he grandstands, he takes the entire time. It's just unbelievable. It's insufferable, I have to tell you, as a newly elected mayor. So I want to tell you two very important things in my mind that this city council, along with this staff, decided to do from a leadership perspective to me that matters. And you see a picture here of warriors praying. And I think the first thing that this city council and staff did was they reinstituted prayer. And they reinstituted prayer at the beginning of our city council meetings. So there's a moment of silence and there's prayer. The second thing that this city council, this leadership team from the city council did, and this staff, was say, you know what, we're going to come up with a new award. We're going to honor Roswell veterans in perpetuity. And so if you notice, just 2 weeks ago, we had the great honor of recognizing a gentleman who's 99 years old, will be 100 in July, who served on D-Day. We had the great honor in this city of having a Roswell gentleman, a Roswell veteran. This city honored him 2 weeks ago. And every meeting we've had and every meeting we will have for the next 4 years, we will honor a Roswell veteran, thanks to the city council. And this picture says it all for me personally, because I believe that when you honor God as an organization, as a city, as a country, as a people, as a culture, when you take the time to honor God, it's funny what happens. God honors you. And so this is a big deal for the city of Roswell. So Roswell is an incredible city. It's a city that's got a few years on it. This is Roswell a few years ago, downtown. Pictures probably look familiar to some of you. I think Roswell Inc. was just forming back then. And of course, Roswell today, unbelievable Canton Street. Everybody here enjoys downtown Canton Street. That's Roswell today. I don't know if you're familiar with what that little picture is. It's a place called Oxbow Road. It's Roswell today. Dan's laughing. It's not so funny, Dan. And there's some wonderful, I tell you, the people that live at this home are the most, I tell you, the man that lives at this house is the most amazing man. He's just the greatest guy I've ever met. But, like Roswell, we have a lot of great single-family homes. So, I got a question. Is this what Roswell looks like in the future? Does Roswell look in the future like this? Does Roswell in the future look like this? Does Roswell look like a combination of the last two in the future? What is the future of Roswell? You know, one of the things that our founders were very clear on, they were very clear about this, is they believed in home rule. They believed in self-rule. They believed in devolving power to the lowest common denominator. And one of the great opportunities that we have, that all of us in this room have, that the electeds have, that the staff has, is we get to determine the future of this great city. And the truth of the matter is it is a great city. And many, many people have achieved the American dream in Roswell. The question is, we are at a time where our past, we have taken care of one another, but we're in an interesting time. By the way, before I forget, I know I'm supposed to be doing a State of the City address, and so I picked on my poor friend here, Mayor Harrell of Seattle, because State of the City addresses are usually what? They're usually some poor mayor coming up and telling you, you know what? Last year we paved 22 roads, we cleaned 47 garbage cans, we saved $107,000 on Yik Yak, and the state of the city is fantastic. And you sit there with blank stares and say, God, I can't wait for this to be over with. Because you go, that's the state of the city? And the state of Roswell is in a really interesting place. It's one of the reasons that I made a decision to run for mayor. I think it's one of the reasons that Randy Knighton decided to become a city administrator for the city of Roswell. I think it's one of the reasons that Lee Hills, Peter Vanstrom, and Will Morthland decided to run. Because we are at a pivotal time in this city's history. This city was the crown jewel of North Fulton County. This city is still an amazing city. But what we determined when we started going through the processes of what's going to happen to the city, will it be intentional? Will it be strategic? Or will it be haphazard? Will it be unintentional? Will it be reactionary? And one of the things we did when we began to start looking at this seriously and doing due diligence on this, we looked at northern suburbs in the United States over the last 60 years, and we saw some commonalities, some interesting commonalities. And the commonalities were what I would basically call, there's an infill, there's an outfill, and there's a backfill. And what that ostensibly means is that most suburban areas are like Roswell, and they grow in spite of themselves without great planning, great strategy, and then the consequences to that over the long term are usually adverse. And so there's a degradation in the quality of life. So for us, we had to say, are we going to be intentional, and what's it going to look like, and starting with the end in mind? So one of the things you won't see up here is that we said the strategy for this city, the vision for this city, is going to start 20 years out. And we did something interesting. We did something a little bit out of the box. Instead of starting with business targets, we started with something that sounds a little abnormal. We started with a population target. Now, you're not going to see it in this presentation, but one of the things we thought is Roswell is 96,000 people today. I've got a growth chart I can show you over the last 60 years in Roswell. It's fascinating. 80s and 90s, you see tremendous statistical growth. Obviously, some from 90 to 2000, 2000, 2010, much less so. 2010 to 2020, dramatically less. But one of the problems when people look at business and they look at growth and they look at dynamics, they think everything's about numbers in terms of population. And what I'm going to submit to you is that we made an intentional decision as leadership that we want Roswell, hold your seats, to be 120,000 people in 20 years. And now that may sound crazy, because one of the things we're going to be very, very clever about and very intentional about is dramatic growth in our redevelopment and dramatic growth in our development. But we do not want the city of Roswell to be 150 to 200,000 people in 20 years. We don't think that's in the best interest of the aspirational values of the property of this city, and we don't think it's in the best interest of the quality of life. So what I'm going to share with you is basically the strategies, how we got there and built around that. The first thing we came up with as a leadership team is the same thing that you would come up with a leadership team. What's going to guide you? What's going to drive you? What are your core values? They're up here. I'll tell them to you. Since I got a lot to cover, I'm going to run through them real quick and not spend a lot of time on these, but these all matter. Accountability, communication, inclusion, innovation, trust, excellence, respect, responsiveness, and my least favorite word in the entire corporate language, transparency. Because my experience in the business world is when everybody says, I'm going to be transparent, start running. But I lost. So we're going to have a transparent culture in the city of Roswell. So you probably know, I hope that you've heard, that on January 24th of this year, this council, staff, and the mayor kind of, sort of, put out a 100-day plan with 11 big objectives. And what I would submit to you, my friends in this room, that any one of those objectives, if they had been executed in a year in the past, in this city, would have been a big deal. This crazy council has taken upon themselves to do 11 of these objectives in the first 100 days of their taking over the elected leadership of this city. That's an amazing feat of courage. And guess who else signed off on this? The staff. The staff was fully included, fully collaborated, and fully part of this craziness. This looks real simple, but I'm going to read 11 things to you real quick, and I want you to think about them. 11 things. This city, in the first 100 days, from January 24th to May 3rd, that's 40 days from now, is going to develop a real city master plan. The second thing is, by the way, where is Ryan? Ryan Lucken and Christine Hall, stand up, because they've already knocked out the second objective, which I'm about to knock to you. Ryan, stand up. Christine, stand up. So on the second objective, we said we're going to evaluate zero-based budgeting. In the first 65 days, Ryan, Christine, Randy, and his team have already done a full analysis of our budgeting system. They have taken incremental budgeting off the table. By the way, most governments use incremental budgeting. The city of Roswell of FY23 will now be doing, guess what? Zero-based budgeting for personnel, priority-based budgeting for all other budgetary matters, and incremental budgeting is gone. Doesn't sound very sexy, I know, but it is, my friends, because it will mean millions of dollars to us as taxpayers, and it will make the process of reviewing budgets much more simpler for elected and staff. It's a big deal. It's number 2 of the 11. Christine and Ryan have already knocked it out. Congratulations. This next one, implement a comprehensive, full, and financial review from the outside. So when you come from the outside, you all know this. You all have businesses, right? You all do your own things. And sometimes it helps to have somebody come in and do a full review of your services, both what you offer and what you do financially. We're going to do that in the first 90 days, my main third. The fourth thing, we are going to create a transportation commission. A transportation commission focused on the resident's perspective. It's a big deal. I'll talk about it in a minute. The fifth thing, I hope you've heard of this. We've had a fantastic plan in the city of Roswell since 2016 called the River Master Plan. This council and this staff are crazy enough to actually say they're going to do this. Not only did we just say we put the plan on the boards, this council and staff are going to execute on the River Master Plan. The sixth thing is we're implementing the people's calendar. That basically means is that everything around the city is going to be geared towards folks who work from 8 to 5 and being able to make meetings and making all the meetings in conjunction with that. And that's a big deal for our city, for our residents. The last thing, the next to last thing, activate the Arts Master Plan. For Jim Conroy, we're going to establish best-in-class police pay. My favorite, this is my sugar bear. We are going to establish an Oxbow Road action plan, and I'll share with you a little bit more of that in just a second. We are going to approve the Master Parks Plan, and we are going to hire an economic development director. Now, this is for fun. Okay, if you don't know Oxbow before, now you know Oxbow. Oxbow, strangely enough, I'll just give you a very glimpse history of it. And by the way, I hate that I'm the world's foremost expert on Oxbow. I really do. Like as a resident a year ago, the last thing I wanted to do was become the foremost expert on the face of the earth on Oxbow. And I now am the world's foremost expert on Oxbow. So here's the simple down and dirty. This ill-conceived plan came together 15 and a half years ago. The city has spent $15.4 million on it. And we've completed, hold on, 33% of the project. So what I'm going to share with you is that this council and staff will present to you by May the 3rd a fully deliverable plan, timeline, budget, and it will be done. And by the way, we'll be breaking ground. Dirt will be moving in May. And this plan will be fully executed under the new plan through Dan Skowski. By the way, if it goes wrong, don't blame me, blame Dan Skowski. This plan will be delivered to you, our fellow residents and businesses, by December 25th, 2023. And I'm very excited by the work behind the scenes of the great team. Well done, Dan. So the next, almost here at the end, but I just want to share with you. So there's a lot to unpack here, and I don't want to overwhelm you. But what I want to share with you is how did we get to the places that we got to behind the scenes? Because on November the 3rd, when the new electeds got started, along with the old electeds, we met from November the 3rd through December 16th every single day in an unprecedented manner, establishing what the policy, strategy, and vision for the city would be for the next 4 years. It's an amazing accomplishment. And then when we came in on January 2nd, we began the same earnest task with Randy and his team. And so what we created were 5 strategic pillars to take this city into the next 20 years. 5 strategic pillars to guide our thinking. And those 5 strategic pillars are very simple. They're 1, public safety, 2, transportation, 3, economic vitality, 4, great governance, 5, quality of life. And underneath of those pillars is our focus. Under public transportation, it's police and fire. Under transportation, it's more ways to travel and execute plans. On economic vitality, it's economic development and get plans done. Want to hear a little funny story about getting plans done? Anybody want a funny story? This is funny. Not really. So, Randy and his team put together all the plans from 2010 to 2021. Anybody want to take a wild guess how many plans we, as a city, had put together? Not bad guess. 87 plans. Anybody want to guess? 4 minutes. 87 plans. Anybody want to take a wild guess what you had spent? David, you didn't do this. I see David Belle-Isle, the former mayor in Alpharetta. You should be sitting up here with the other guys. Yeah, exactly. We spent, us as residents, just on 87 plans, spent $4 million in those 11 years. And we ostensibly did almost nothing with them. So when we took, Randy's team took those 87 plans, condensed them to 40 plans, and council, staff, we're reviewing those 40 plans, and we will deliver to you in a very clear and transparent way, is status of each one of those plans. Dead, good, gonna do, not gonna do, with clarity. And we will do that after we get through the 100-day plan. We will come back and deliver the status of those 40 plans and what we're gonna do. Now, you've seen some of them, and by the way, you see up here underneath Get Plans Done, there's a bunch of plans we've already said we're gonna do. Great governance. That means outstanding services and a winning culture. You can't win if you don't have a great culture. And there's a couple things I just want to point out here about a winning culture that, to me, are dramatic. They're going to be dramatic differences that you're going to see in this city. One is, Julie's back there, but you're going to see a comprehensively much different communication strategy from the city. The other thing is, and I want to point out, you'll see a couple of cute words here, but they mean something. Innovate, fail, collaborate, out-of-the-box thinking. Okay, everybody says that. I want to give you an example how that's already happened. My friend Tom, Scott, Ron Buckley are in here. They're on the DDA. And they had, the Downtown Development Authority had a brilliant plan for the West Alley project because there was a real problem with water detention and retention. And so they came up with a great idea, the Development Authority, about creating a dog park and creating an offset for the water retention detention. It's a great idea. And so everybody's been chasing this ideal for 14 months. Now, some argument about what the cost is, but Dan Skowski, Sharon Iso, the experts basically tell you it's going to cost about $3 million to do this stormwater detention retention plan. So basically what was on the table was that the city was probably going to spend $2 million, $2.5 million, build a 1-acre dog park, put an underground water retention, and the developer, Walt, was going to have to spend at least $750,000, and or he'd lose valuable property at 26 Webb. Now, again, not sexy, but really sexy to me, because Sharon Iso and her team, in 3 weeks of due diligence, literally 3 weeks of due diligence, getting involved, understanding that we were trying to find different solutions rather than what the status quo was or what was presented, Sharon and her team come back and say, you're not going to believe this, but guess what? Walt, all he has to do is spend $5,000 to $10,000, get us a water analysis report, and we'll give him a waiver, and he doesn't have to do stormwater detention retention on that site. He just has to put some pavers in the parking lot to make sure the water is clean. And I'm going, you just took $3 million off the table. You just took $2.25 million away from the city responsibly. You just took $250,000 that the developer doesn't have to spend. To me, that's innovative thinking. To me, that's out-of-the-box thinking. To me, that's willing to fail. And to me, that's the kind of thinking you're going to see more and more, I think, between the staff and the council, because I'm seeing it every day, and the level of collaboration and the level of risk-taking that I'm seeing is amazing, and it's going to get more amazing. And you're going to see the manifestation in this city in a dramatic fashion. So I can't tell you what a pleasure, what a privilege it is to work with these folks, council and staff. The last thing is quality of life. Well, obviously, we want to make it inevitable that everybody that moves to North Fulton just passes by Alpharetta, passes by Milton, and that they do like something nasty in Johns Creek when they're there. And that they all end up at Mountain Park. No. Obviously, we want Roswell to be the place where people choose to live and do business. And the reality is, our sister cities have done a better job than us. And it's time. We've got to pick it up, and we got to pass them up. And by the way, we're going to work fantastic. Our sister cities, our mayors, we've already got an agreement. These guys are coming over to my house once a week and drinking my booze, and I'm already kind of a little ticked off at them, just to tell you. The last thing is catch-all. I wanted to tell you that when we started together, I asked the council, each one of the council people, tell me what's important to you. Tell me what you want to do. And they all had very important agendas. And then we kind of put all those together. And at the end, when we started between November the 3rd through December the 16th, putting all this together, we had over 100 basic massive agenda items. We distilled those down to 41. And so what you see here is ostensibly not all, but part of 41 targets that your leadership, your council, and your staff are going to be working on over the next 4 years. The first manifestation will be the 100-day plan. So I apologize that wherever I go, and if I have a microphone, I have to ask the same question of you that I feel gets asked of me every day. That I feel like that if you're a believer in God, like I am, that you're stuck with this responsibility. That God's asking So what are you doing? Not, what's being done for me. Because the reality, everyone in this room has an amazing life. We all have different challenges. We all have different travails. But we live in an amazing place. And so there is this great question that Dr. Martin Luther King asked. Life's most persistent and urgent question is, what are you doing for others? And so the last thing I want to say to you is when you look at our plans, the logical thing to say is we're going to be the #1 family community in America. We're going to be the safest community in America. We're going to eliminate violent crime. And yeah, you're crazy. That's craziness. And I will submit to you that it always seems impossible until it is done. Quoted by no less than something that was pretty impossible, Nelson Mandela, in the end of apartheid. The last thing I want to share with you is a little prayer. So in my tradition, I'm Episcopalian, please don't hold that against me. In my tradition, when I say, the Lord be with you, and you say, and also with you. So I'm going to say, may the Lord be with you. May the Spirit of the living God go before you to show you the way. Go before you, go above you to watch over you. Go beneath you to uplift you. Go behind you to guide you in places that you might not go yourself. Go beside you to be your constant companion and dwell within you to remind you that you are not alone and that you are loved beyond your wildest imagination. And may the fire of God's blessing, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit burn upon you and with you, now and always. Amen. Thank you. God bless.